Welcome back to Humble Brags. We are minus Hannah today, unfortunately, but we have an amazing founder with us. We've got Gabrielle, the founder of Wrinkle Schminkles. Welcome.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to get into this chat. We've had a few exited founders on the podcast, and the conversations are always so inspiring and refreshing. I'd love to start by just telling us a little bit about you. We're having coffee before, and you were saying, you've always been in like management consulting. And when I was reading your story, I was like, it's so interesting because it's like you had done management consulting for a while, and then you're like, I can actually grow a business, and then you proved that you could, and now potentially going back to consulting, which is awesome.
Yeah, full circle.
Yeah.
I mean, I started my career more on the corporate side of
Yeah.
things and got that sort of foundational level of experience
Yeah.
by desire. Like I was studying a Masters of E-commerce at Bond Uni, and I was loving all of the e-commerce threads coming through, all the different subjects. They had amazing American lecturers out from the States all the time. And it was a lecturer there that I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But I loved all the case study learning and problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually a lecturer that said to me, you should look at management consulting. Very hard to get into, very difficult interview techniques and case studies.
Yeah.
But she sort of nurtured me through that process and started off as a management consultant. And from there, I went in and got different different sort of pockets of experience till, that whole thing of connecting the dots, where then I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing to start something. And I wanted a product-based business for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept thinking, I've got to wait for the right idea that you're either passionate about or connected enough with or confident enough with, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I stumbled on a personal problem.
Yep.
And then I went from there, like most good founders.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that you were kind of inspired. You knew that you wanted to have a product-based business, because I think a lot of people who think, I want to start a business, a lot of when we talk to founders, they're like, it just came naturally out of a problem, which it does, but it's also that desire and also
Yes.
keeping an eye out for those
Yes.
problems that you're going to solve as well.
Yeah,
So that's
totally.
really cool. So Wrinkle Schminkles.
Yes.
How did that start?
Well, so I wanted a product-based business. I'd
Yeah.
read that book actually, and I was talking to another founder about this the other day, and she was like, "Me too." So I think it's a good oldie to remember, that 4-Hour Work Week from Tim Ferriss. Have you
Yeah.
ever read that?
No, I haven't, but
So it was all about, and he was so ahead of his time, but it was about your time not to equal what you can earn. And I was like, okay, that's why I want a product-based business. And then I had my consulting business. I was a one-woman show then. It was post-corporate. I'd been at eBay, my tickets. I'd done a few other things, and I went out on my own. And I was very happy, great money. But I really lacked that sort of the creativity. I couldn't, you're making great recommendations and you walk away, you have no idea. Is anyone going to roll those out? Well, not well.
Yep.
And then I started noticing signs of aging on my own skin, like fine lines and wrinkles.
Yep.
I've grown up in Australia, lots of sun, all the things. And they were mostly from side sleeping. And there was all creams, lotions, potions out there. I was like, great, I'll try all of those. And I've always taken really good care of my skin. And I said to my beautician, what do I do about these sort of fine lines?
Yep.
And there's more vertical lines from side sleeping. And she said, that's really hard. And so that then started a prototyping process, which I did in a really relaxed time frame. And then eventually landed, sort of the pace started picking up and landed on medical grade silicone. It's been used to treat scars on the skin for a long, long time. And so, ended up creating a patch range in 2014 for targeting lines and wrinkles.
So good. And I know it's a unique category, but even because I discovered the product maybe like a year ago, and at first I was like, well, you can do Botox and do all the skincare that you want, but it's true, when you're sleeping, and I move around so much, I'm a side sleeper, there's nothing that you can do other than freeze it while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So brilliant. So talk to us about kind of starting a new category from scratch, because that's really difficult.
It is.
What was that process like?
I mean, because I did it at such my own pace, you create the brand name, but it's a brand new category, and to pioneer a category, you're really up against it, because you've got to try and convince people to really change their habits.
Yeah.
And to really be willing to trial something. And that was one thing I knew as soon as I launched, that if we could just get people over the trial factor,
Mm-hmm.
they would see our before and afters and everything online and think, oh, was that realistic? But once we actually figured out, okay, well, how do I keep making sure I can remove all the barriers to trial as quickly as possible? And we could really see repeat purchase coming through really quickly. But that creating a new category and a new brand is really difficult. But I think one of the things which is always nice to focus on, because it can feel quite overwhelming if you aren't, well, you are the category leader. We actually had a really good situation in the US where we had a copycat brand launched 2 years after us, with backed by capital as well. So they had deep pockets, and we were already in the US then because we'd organically been able to enter that market. But what was really great about that was letting them spend their dollars on educating the US market. And it was when influencer marketing had actually just kicked off. And they had these big, deep pockets and budgets and were going to all the Housewives of Beverly Hills. And you could just see it. At first you panic.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm the category leader.
Yes.
But then it was great because it was like, okay, you can spend your money on influencers and we'll spend our budget on customers.
I love that.
After you've educated them. So it's always good to remember sometimes there can really be a blessing in, even if you are the category leader and have copycats, so it can really, you can use it a little bit in your favor if you just sort of stick in your lane.
It's a good point, and it's a really good way to look at it. Great for the nervous system too.
I think I try to make myself feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
So with the education piece, because that's really hard for a lot of founders, and I've experienced it with my own brands and whatnot. How did you go about that? And obviously a lot of people are doing founder-led content and educational type pieces in order to try to put that message across. Were you doing the founder-led type of content for the education piece, or how did you start
Not
to do
for
that?
a long time. When I launched the brand, I was very adamant with the PR agency I launched with that I didn't want to be. Founder-led businesses weren't really a huge thing back then unless you were a micro celebrity. And I was adamant that I didn't want to be the face of the brand. Probably partly ego at the time. It was just a whole different point in time. And they were like, please let us, use a founder spokesperson. I was like, no, you have to launch it on its own merits, which was good because, we had to prove the merit of the brand. I mean, for us back then, 2014, you really launched when you were a bootstrap brand like I was. It was really 3 key things because there was no paid social. It was really good Google search. It was a great website optimized for SEO, and it was PR. So the PR were really the gatekeepers to educating. And back then there was a really robust set of, really tight circle of beauty journalists that was super supportive of if they selected and approved, new brands entering the market, they really did sort of open up the industry for you. And I was very, very, very lucky. I had a great PR agency, very connected with all of them. And I think because they were curious for themselves, but I was really fortunate that we got great PR coverage, straight away. And that was really what helped with education for us in the Australian market.
Nice. And I think that even though it's been some time and the times were different back then, it's still so relevant because I'm finding now with everything that's happening in the economy, businesses are going back to basics, and it's those things that will, it's proof of concept with the really basic things. And I think that's coming back as relevant strategies for sure.
Great.
So there were moments within the growth of Wrinkle Schminkles where, things blow up, were a viral moment on TikTok or maybe going into wholesale.
Yes.
What were those sort of pivotal moments in the business that you feel like really took it to scale mode?
Yeah, there's probably about 3 or 4, but a couple of the bigger ones, definitely Shark Tank, which is really interesting because I think we went on Real Housewives of Sydney to launch the brand as well. And I think at the time I assumed that would be where it would spike sales. And I think that launched first, but then Shark Tank, I thought, I loved Shark Tank. So I was like, even though I was so nervous, but I loved it as a concept. But it was so fascinating how much that spiked sales at the time. And then literally, 12-year-old business, when I sold it, it was still our best performing meta campaign. We could not get away from it. And this is when, Shark Tank, that was sort of version 1, a whole different set of sharks. But it just was the gift that kept on giving.
Amazing.
So Shark Tank, definitely. Entering wholesale, and particularly, we entered wholesale, as most people do, where low barriers to entry across the independents, salons, clinics, and also smaller pharmacy chains and stores. But the moment we went into Priceline, that was a huge step change for us. I was very nervous that it would cannibalize our DTC because we were a DTC-led brand. And I actually had 2 opportunities prior to enter into Priceline, and I pulled out because I knew I didn't have the skill set, and I didn't have the right consultants and or staff. I wasn't ready for that sort of commitment to have that sort of wholesale team in the business. But when we went in, it was amazing how much the entire thing grew, and it didn't cannibalize at all. So I think it's a really good lesson for founders as well, because you can really think, it's so pay to play in there as well, like all of those big retailers, but it really does pay off if you go in there with your eyes wide open, really well educated around what to invest in from the advertising options you're, forced to participate in.
Yeah.
But you can really make it work for you and grow your business and DTC and really build that credibility through the business. And it really did that.
Do you think you need to have a solid brand identity before venturing out into?
I do.
Yeah.
I learnt that the hard way
Yeah.
when we, as I was saying, when we entered into the US organically, was really through DTC. But we very quickly got picked up there because our SEO was so strong, because I was so passionate about SEO. But we got picked up really quickly by a couple of online retailers over there, and then a broker. And then it just sort of started snowballing. So next minute it was Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, Macy's. And I went in way too early. So I was like, great, in we go. This is fantastic. But the sell-through just wasn't strong enough because we just didn't have enough of that brand awareness or the budget, particularly in a country with a population like the US, to really be able to have the right reach. So you sort of rolled in to roll out. So it was a really good lesson early on, and it was online only. So thank goodness it didn't go out into all doors, because I know a lot of businesses and brands have, unfortunately ended up no longer trading from trying to enter retail, because it really is quite difficult. So it is really important to have a level of brand awareness if you don't have those big budgets, I think.
Yeah. And then the final moment, I think, was virality.
Yeah, virality. Right. I don't like talking about COVID all the time, but COVID for us was a very big, as it was a successful moment for us, because lots of factors, like lots of businesses and beauty, really thrived through COVID. But for us in particular, we sort of had a chain of events that really were very, very fortunate. I mean, we still had our scary moment up front. We were actually booked in to be on, I can't remember now if it was The View or Good Morning America, but one of them, where you did these flash sales and you sort of turn over about $300,000 in 24 hours. They were great. We were ready to go on one of those, and they pulled it the day before because they said, it was very early stages even over there in COVID, and they said, with all the warnings not to touch your face, we just don't think it's appropriate to be presenting this brand online.
Oh, and don't they commit to stock beforehand?
Yeah, well, they commit, but then it's just bad luck for you. Yeah. So we had that where that fell over, and we were literally sitting there with, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock.
No.
But very quickly we saw, influencer budgets shifted from travel, fashion, luxury to beauty and home.
Yeah.
And then a lot of influencers, a lot of people don't realize, but before that, women were not putting we could not get influencers to willingly put patches on their face and talk to camera. You'd sort of get 1 in 10 that were like, I don't care what people think about me, but most people wouldn't. They wanted, we were still pretending we just were all natural beauties and woke up like this, you know.
Yeah.
But so we were very fortunate that happened, and then we had started getting some traction, sort of like 1 million, 10 million views and things of some of our TikToks. And then we had the big one blow up in March, and that was that 55, I think it's about 55 million now.
Wow.
So it was just this chain of events, which for us, we really were able to sort of take advantage of and sort of just start to ride that wave of a whole different level of awareness.
Yeah. And for other founders who look at Wrinkle Schminkles as their like inspiration, what would you say, like obviously that moment didn't come from nowhere. You had been working really hard and being really consistent with your vision and the content. What's some sort of advice for founders who are like waiting to have that moment?
I just think when you get lucky is just to be so ready to take advantage of that luck, because it's not, as you say, it's hard work sitting underneath, you're waiting for these, you're not sitting there waiting for these lucky moments, but because they will come up, is just to be absolutely ready to take advantage and say yes to everything and just figure it all out later. How are you going to get that stock? Figure that out later, it's to a point, obviously, but we've had so many really fortunate moments that have come our way that if I had sort of sat on my hands or taken too much time to make decisions, I see that a lot in businesses. corporate bigger businesses, which we've now integrated into. It's just a different pace.
Yeah.
And being able to have that small, nimble team where the founder can make a decision and knows, pretty much, do we have the stock? Do we have the cash flow? Can we pull something off? Is just being ready to say yes always.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of cash flow,
Yes.
I know you said Shark Tank, but you never took investment.
That's right.
Is that right?
Well, I didn't get offered investment. I was actually rejected.
Yeah, okay, there you go. But still was your biggest, amazing.
Biggest gift.
Love that.
Big thank you to the Sharks.
Yeah, totally. And so you remained bootstrapped.
Yes.
How was that? Do you ever think that you would have done it differently, or do you love that you took that avenue?
I love now. I've exited as a solo founder, bootstrapped, so of course I love it now. But there was a lot of moments in time, not so much for the cash flow reasons, but I craved a co-founder, or I would always think I just wish an amazing advisor that would want to invest in my business would come along, and not for the investment, for the shared resource. I wasn't an expert in anything or everything, and I really craved a co-founder, and I never attracted one. There was people. I went into a license agreement for about a year with a US group, which didn't work out, but cash flow itself was never a huge problem for the business. I built the business more with a patient build mentality.
Yep.
I love the build phase. It doesn't mean it was slow, but I was patient about making sure that we were generating profit, and that profit was what we used to grow and continue to scale.
Yeah.
So, bootstrapping is, it's not for the faint-hearted sometimes. You really are, carrying that financial burden and having to be across every account, every dollar, every invoice, everything. But, that I wouldn't have wanted to do it any other way, because, even when I decided that I did want to sell, I wanted to do something. I was ready for a change, and looked at, either investment into the business or acquisition out. And I can't imagine, for my personality, working well with private equity and investors in the business. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
Not in this lifetime of Wrinkle Schminkles anyway.
Yeah.
Never say never in the future. But no, I'm glad I did it the way I did it.
Yeah, definitely.
It was all I knew too. So,
it's great.
Yeah.
And sometimes that naivety is good, right?
Yeah. Well,
As
you
a
can't
first-time
question
founder.
yourself when you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but if things had come my way, I might have done it totally different.
Yeah.
And I said that the other day I was talking to a founder at online retailer, and they were sort of feeling a bit down and out. And I said, look, I was never approached to invest in my business. I was never approached for anyone wanting to be a co-founder. Don't let those things sort of limit where the value you think is in your business.
Totally.
You can drive the value and the communication and the conversations.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's nice to remember. Like, I had no interest ever.
Yeah.
And here we are. So
I think your international expansion was super impressive as well. How many countries? 20?
Sold in over 22 countries,
Yeah.
and a base in warehouses in 3. So Australia, UK and US. Those 3 major markets, but servicing 22 countries.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how did you go about that? So many brands are looking to expand internationally. How do you go into a market that you, first of all, don't know that much about, and secondly, are having to prove your category concept all over again?
It's funny because I didn't realize it was even a thing to concern yourself with until I actually appointed out of our advisory group to sell Ancora, and they were just so impressed with, then they said to me, we sat me down one day and said, I don't think you understand that a lot of Australian businesses try to enter other markets and can't, and have to pull out, and you're able to expand into these markets profitably. And it really was just one of those beauties of being a DTC first brand, is that's particularly in 2026 or even the last few years, that you can literally turn on your best performing campaigns and test and see how a market is going to respond, or multiple markets, and find little markets you might not know. And we did that a few times to decide what other countries to service. I think the first one was the US SEO organic, but when we did decide to go to market, we wanted to prove ourselves and have a proof of concept to an interested buyer that we could enter new markets profitably. And so we did then launch into the UK profitably just before we went, a few months before we went to market. So we could show this is how easy it's going to be for you to add on new markets.
Amazing. And what would you say were the best investments in when you expanded internationally? Was it local warehousing, marketing?
That's a really good question. I think it's I mean, it's definitely the credibility piece and trying to get that over the line, as quickly as possible so it looks like you're a bit more established than you are. I think today, in today's world with like platforms like Linkbee, instead of hiring a PR agency, is being able to pay to play to get one, headline press coverage that you can then use that in your ads. We've done that really well in markets. It's such a simple thing. And I only thought of that because I'm advising someone at the moment who's about to launch in the US. And I said, look, it's sort of like 3 things, and get the Linkbee piece, make sure that's in the ads so you can show you're getting a good headline piece of PR. And then getting the local influencers, a few local accents. That's more important in some markets than others. And we find that the US still loves the whole Australian founded brand, whereas the UK really responded much better to British accents. So just those small things you can do that actually don't have to cost a lot of money, but make you look established enough in those countries. And then like getting the 1 or 2 retailers on board that people go, oh, okay, they are here. They do have a presence here. I mean, in the US, it's Amazon. In the UK, it's Amazon a bit as well.
Yeah, I love that. Very practical.
Yeah, simple.
Exactly. So there came a time where you were like, okay, I think that I'm ready to exit and I want to start the process. What made you come to that decision? And then what was your thought process on, okay, how do I set myself up for this?
Yeah, it was 2023. I remember it so clearly. And I'd made a decision that I wasn't enjoying the day-to-day as much. And I would still have a moment where there was a new initiative and I'd get excited because it's variety, and I would roll something out and then I would think, oh, okay, that's done now. And what I know now is that it was like founder-led, founder-directed, founder-informed, and I was very much craving to sort of move away from leading every single thing in the business. And so I did look at the business and I thought something's got to change. And I looked at the business and the metrics and I thought it's really showing promise where I can get it to the point where I think sale or investment. But for me, that was when I had that real moment was, do I think I'm built for investment? What would that actually look and feel like? And spoke to a few people I knew, friends and contacts and things, but it became very evident for me that the ideal scenario for me would be a full acquisition and exit. But to do that, it meant digging right back into the business and building it right up to then let it go. It wasn't a overnight decision at all. What were some of the things that you did? Did you do a rebrand? We didn't do a rebrand. Oh, well, a light packaging rebrand, not a total rebrand. But we certainly, that was actually one of the most important projects early on, is I had sort of discovered that with all the copycats entering the market, like Shark Tank told me they would, and they did, we all sort of, and there were some good ones, right? So they had big investment dollars behind them. And so we were all so you start to all copy off each other and you go, oh, that's a good one-liner, we'll borrow that. And then in the end, it was like, okay, we're all sort of sounding the same here, but we were not only the pioneer, but we actually had a much more credible brand overall collectively. We were made in the US, we were made in China, we had really consistent, amazing product, we were made in an FDA listed facility, so we could change our packaging. So that was part of the rebrand, is to say, right, if we're going to push more into wholesale and elevate the brand. And we had this opportunity, sort of brainwave moment I had, to make our packaging clear so you could actually see the product, because there's still a lot of newness in the category. Even now, a lot of people still don't know of this category that exists for skincare. So the brand elevation was a really important piece. So it was cleaning up the language. A little light rebrand we introduced, switched out a pale peach for a more striking blue. There was sort of no blue beauty brands on shelf. So there was a whole lot of things that were involved in a brand elevation program, which was really, really important. And our languaging was part of that as well. So in 2014, when I launched, it was the term anti-aging was on high rotation. Everyone was going into clinics to, try injectables. And then fast forward to 2023, and then it was really clear that term anti-aging was just no longer appropriate. And a lot of people were then replacing it with pro-aging and these sort of find and replace terms, which I didn't buy into that either. So we really did this whole program around how do our customers really feel about aging? And we landed on this really, with an amazing brand consultant, this really strong framework around aging is complicated. And that really resonated. So we were able to sort of have this really strong brand platform positioning ready to go. And then it was a whole lot of other streams of work. So it was getting ready to scale DTC. I brought back a beloved e-com manager, and brought her back to the team and joined a coaching program and really got ready to scale the business.
Nice.
And built out the team. So it's quite counterintuitive. I'm sort of thinking, all right, I want to get ready to sell, but it's like, no, we actually need to build out the team to actually have more of people heading up the right functions so that eventually a founder can be slowly removed and the whole thing doesn't fall over.
Yep.
And building out new markets, new product development, new retailers. And so that was when we entered the UK market, and then started having new conversations with new retailers and using a different agency in the US and things like that. So
wow, a lot.
Yeah, a lot. It's a whole new strategy.
Yeah.
So you're digging back in more than you've probably ever dug into your business before, because the stakes are higher, because you actually know exactly why you're doing it and what the actual exit plan is.
Yeah. So all those things that you did leading up to it,
Yes.
when that company came in to acquire, were those the things they were looking for?
Yeah. Well, the reason the strategy was quite broad was because what I've learned in hindsight is you think your buyer list, everyone always thinks, and everyone I talk to now, they're like, oh yeah, our buyer list, it's 10 people. But it's not. The 10 people you think it is, well, it might be for some people, but it's more likely not going to be one of those 10.
Yeah.
And so you really need to make sure that when we were like, we need to be as appealing as we can to as many buyer types. Some people will see you as a bolt-on and they want to integrate everything in. Some people will see you as a standalone business in a standalone market. Some people will be interested in acquiring you because you're DTC. Some people will be interested in acquiring you because you're the wholesale. So that's why it was important for us to scale DTC, build out wholesale, so you're as appealing as possible. And probably one of the other things we did, which was really important to mention as well, is really look at what was on trend in beauty at that time. And for us in 2023, it was being recyclable and clean beauty. They were two really important factors. So we launched a recycling program, which was really hard for us to achieve.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to make sure just trying to make sure that you're as appealing as possible to everyone as you can, because a lot of the early stage people we had pitch meetings with in the end fell over as well.
That's really impressive to have that vision and tenacity to do all of those things, because it's really hard. And what I was going to say is I think that it would probably maybe given you a little bit more breathing space as well, because
It's funny you say that.
Yeah, because it's like you said, if you had that pool of 10 buyers and they were really particular, you probably would have had to compromise on some things with the sale.
Yeah, with the breathing space thing, it was more once I put that strategy in place and we were working towards it, we actually took my foot off the pedal, and we'd had the conversations with a couple of different advisory groups, but then you could kind of just sink back into your business and not focus. You're focusing just on scaling, growing, and knowing exactly. It was very clear.
Yeah.
So it was really quite it was then like a little bit of a calm 6 months before we then went into the process itself.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And life after exit. I know it's still fresh.
Yes.
How's it been? We've spoken to founders who said it was nothing I imagined.
Yes.
They didn't feel fulfilled. Some people loved it. What's your experience?
I'm thrilled that I've exited. I only exited the business. So we sold last 31st of July, 25.
Yeah.
So it was actually a year ago last Friday.
Amazing.
But I only exited in May.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting concept that I've learned, that for us, it was 1 year to prep to sell, 1 year to sell, and 1 year to hand over and exit.
Yeah.
So I'm just at that tail end. I exited in May.
Yeah.
And I'm still like, it's layers that sort of slip away as you go. It's not sort of immediate. And I thought I would feel the immediate complete relief when I sold, but it wasn't that at all. Then you've got integration. And of course, there's just challenges in all of the process is a complex process. I mean, integrating a business into another business, there's no sort of easy way around some of the challenges. They just exist because it's two separate businesses coming together. So, but I do feel as time keeps going on, you sort of feel a layer peel away. And no, I'm really, really quite sort of a combination of elated and then just at peace, much more peaceful day-to-day lifestyle and brain.
Yeah, that's what you want. Did you have a number in your head that you knew you would exit for, or?
I did. Yeah. And it was really good, actually. I had an idea, and then it's really hard actually not to be influenced by what everyone's telling you can get for your business.
Yeah.
And some people will be going lower and some people will be going higher, and it's a very sort of emotional time. But what was really helpful was the advisory group we used. They held me really accountable to that number. And even when we were structuring, how they were paid according to the numbers of the deal, the number you don't know if you're going to get.
Yeah.
they were really, really adamant to understand what is the absolute no or yes.
Yeah.
And that was really, really helpful because we were all very aligned, and they might have, they did that with me for their own reasons, that they had founders where they'd said, no, I would never sell for that number. And then when the time comes, people are like going, yeah, I'll sell.
Yeah.
I'm out. You know,
exactly.
you've gone through half a sale process. So, I definitely did have a number in mind.
Yeah, it helps for sure.
Yeah.
And looking back on the entire journey, obviously it must be so amazing to be in a position where you're now reflecting. What, for founders who are still in the trenches, what's some sort of advice that you can give to them in their business, whether it's even like a mindset
Yes.
or
I think I was really pleased that when I felt the first signs within myself that not wobbles per se, but just changes in how I was feeling about being in the business, I was really adamant that I wanted to make sure I sold when I wasn't burnt out and really, hating on the business. I think, or when the metrics were going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of IMs since, and it's sad to see, amazing companies that have worked so hard, but for multitude of different reasons, are selling at a time when, you open up their metrics and it's not a positive story.
Yeah.
So I just think if founders are feeling in the trenches is to really ask yourself, particularly if you've got strong metrics in a business, but you might just have, like I did, I decided, at that stage it was 10 years, that 10 years of selling patches was great, but I didn't need another 10.
Yeah.
Or one or anything. So I think just asking yourself and being really, that expression which I love, to get to the truth quicker.
Yes.
How are you actually feeling?
Yes.
And making decisions off the back of that, because a sale process will not come quickly. And I remember when a friend of mine said that to me, it's going to be 3 years. And I thought, no, I'm not waiting 3 years, but it is. It's 3 years, give or take.
It's so important because, as founders, you're just constantly grinding and hustling, and
Exactly.
the goalpost constantly changes.
Constantly.
You don't often have that time to think, okay, what do I actually want for my life?
And I think as founders in businesses, and it's only founders who will really get this, is you create these businesses out of passion and you love them, but you don't always have that exit plan when you start them. And then you're in a business that you almost can't get out of.
Yeah.
And that feeling is, you've then got to make a decision, and there was one recently in beauty skincare that's closed, do I close? Do I push harder?
Yeah.
Do I hire a CEO and move sideways?
Yeah.
Do I exit? And all of those scenarios are really, really big, difficult decisions and uncertain decisions. And I just think being clear and being not afraid to ask yourself of how you're actually feeling in your own business.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody changes and evolves throughout the years, and that's okay. It's acceptable. Yeah. So what's next? What's next for you?
I'm committed to decompressing
Love
far, but I did then accidentally start the exit files, which I'm enjoying as a means of sharing. So I've gone back to doing a bit of consulting with clients and things, which I love.
Amazing.
And I'm loving understanding how to support other founders. But I started a Substack, the exit files, which is a nice way. It's such an amazing platform.
It is.
Actually.
I'm deep learning about it right now.
I'm on a steep learning curve.
Yes.
And it's amazing because it's amazing how much I've always said, when I really get into the copywriting mindset, it takes me a bit to get in the zone, but I don't mind it. I'm not bad at it. But it's interesting sort of reworking that skill in a Substack environment, writing articles, and it's such a nice way to share and give back. And
it is.
I've seen so many founders join and follow and then reach out. I sort of bumped into a lot of people at online retailers. So it's really nice. So I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And for now, I'm just going to see how that evolves. The exit files might end up being something quite big.
Yeah.
It might end up just being a way to share and something small. And I'm okay with both.
Yeah. I'm sure if you want it to, it will be big, because there's so much that people can learn from you. And that's so amazing.
That's kind. Thank you.
What I really like about Substack, because I enrolled in a course, the Lazy Millionaire.
I did too. Yeah,
I've
been doing it. I was about to say to you, the 30-day challenge.
Yes, I'm doing it.
So good, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
She's really great. And what I love about Substack is I just feel like with AI and founder content, like everything's feeling the same and scripted. And I just love that on Substack I can just go and write like a diary entry, which is so refreshing.
It's great. And it was interesting, one of her, whatever lesson it was early on, where she was talking about how she uses Claude and everything. Yeah. And so I started, off that way. But then actually after that, I haven't written one with Claude.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want to sound like AI. And when I
Exactly.
did sort of do some of her prompts and things, they were helpful to know they're there for small
Yes.
parts. But working up a whole article, and she's a bit anti that as well,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I'm not going to use it for that. I'll use it for when I'm a word, a sentence, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to be really authentic with what I want to say and when I feel like saying it.
Like the old days. Like we are of the
Exactly.
generation where we used to blog. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like bringing
Yeah,
that
it
back,
is.
which is
It
nice.
is. And I never had a blog.
No,
so.
me neither. But I used to write in a diary a lot.
Yeah.
So it feels
me
like
too.
that.
Yeah. No, I'm loving it.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
good. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. If somebody wants to find you,
Yes.
what are your like handles or how can they get in touch?
LinkedIn or the exit files on Substack, probably the best ways.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We'll link it in the podcast
Thank you so
episode as well.
much.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. It's been an amazing conversation and I'm excited to see all the amazing things you do next.
Thank you. Very kind. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.